Father, what is it troubling your mind? Why are you so afraid?
My child, our world is full of evil creatures. Ancient demons, spawns from hell, and even mighty dragons. Mankind fears the monsters, but the monsters are afraid as well.
Even the monsters are afraid? But about what?
While we fight our battles against the hordes of evil, the earth drowns in blood, which will be consumed by a creature so terrible that even gods fear its awakening. Listen, my child, this wicked spirit could be the end of the world.
But Heimlock, what can we do to protect ourselves?
Run!
Hello everybody and welcome to another Wolcen build guide, this time for patch 1111. In all fairness, that's not a brand new build. This is the updated version of a build I've posted several months ago, the Red Baron, maybe you remember. And this is the updated version of it. And the reason why I still stick to this build is, for example, I still use the same items I've used months ago. Same weapon, same catalyst, all of the items are more or less the same. I just converted 2 of the yellow items to red and that's it. And there's not a single unique item I need, and I was able to go from expedition level 187 all the way to 217 with ease. No problem whatsoever. I just updated a few skills and the passives and then that's it. So that's why I think this build has a ton of potential, considering the fact that I'm still level 84, I'm not even max level, and some of the skills I'm using, they're also not max level. There's still room for improvement, there's still a way to make this build even stronger. Okay, so that's why I want to show this build to you again, or in case you haven't seen the first one, enjoy this. I will talk about some aspects of the build, we'll talk about the attributes, have a look at the stats, I will explain all the active skills, we'll have a look at the passives, and then you're good to go. Alright, so let's start with the build aspects. When I talk about Wolcen builds, I have 5 key factors in my mind which determine if I have a decent gameplay experience or not. I like a good balance between speed, damage, survivability, sustainability, and ease of use. What I mean by that is the following. For instance, speed. If you have some teleport or other dashes in your build and you can traverse through the map rather quickly, then that's fine. I'm not a huge fan of that, but still I need some speed modifier in order not to be too slow. Then of course I need to deal enough damage in order to beat the map in a decent time. I'm not struggling at bosses, but at the same time I need to check my survivability, because I don't want to pay too close attention to what kind of puddle is on the ground or an enemy thrall is spitting something at me and I'm afraid to die. That's not what I want. Same applies to ease of use. I don't want to press 5 million buttons, or I have to wait until the moon is red and the enemy is like in a 45-degree angle looking somewhere. I can stab him in the back. That's way too complicated. I want to watch Netflix, Cobra Kai or anything else while I'm farming stuff, so the build needs really to be easy to use. And the last factor is the sustainability. I don't want to starve for resources all the time and I have to wait until my resources are building up so I can use active skills, or I need to implement some auto attacks in order to dish my skills out. In case you are interested in the stats, here they are. These are my unbuffed stats. I will not go over each and every stat or explain anything. I just show them to you scrolling down so you can pause the video at the bits you are interested in. In case you have any question, then please let me know in the comments. Otherwise, these are my unbuffed stats. Let's talk about the attributes real quick. What I did, I distributed my points equally between ferocity and toughness, more or less, so 50-50, because I like the sweet mix of dishing out enough damage and having a little bit of survivability. Now here's the thing, and that's why I consider the attributes as a kind of joker. Of course, you have a different item setup, maybe you're using different active skills, and if you are under the impression, hey, I'm way too tanky, but I really struggle with the damage, then go for more ferocity. Use 75% ferocity and 25 toughness, or go 100% ferocity if that's your thing. For the opposite way, if you are dying too much but you say, hey, my damage is okay but I still die constantly, then go full toughness. You know what I'm driving at. So consider the attributes more or less as a joker, a thing you can adjust afterwards depending on how the build is working out for you. Now here comes the fun part, the active skills. Since I'm using a catalyst, I have this transition between rage and willpower, as you can see. So I need a rage spender and willpower spenders. As far as the rage spender is concerned, I'm using Havoc Orb because this is very, very good damage. In fact, AoE damage. So we can cover a big area because we have this little fella here, which generates some smaller clusters of the orbs. Then I'm using 2 additional projectiles with this node here and this node here. We lose a little bit of base damage, but that's not very tragic because of this additional projectile. And I use this node to mitigate the base damage loss, as well as a bigger effect radius and critical damage. And as you can see, when we fire this up, the complete screen is covered with projectiles. It's just fantastic. I really like that. But hey, that's just my personal preference. You can exchange things like if you say, hey, I don't need this additional projectile, I just go for, I don't know, this one or more base damage. That's totally up to you. As far as the elements are concerned, since the whole build focuses on material damage, we should pick either one of these two, because as you can see, it just gives me 14k of damage, and as soon as we switch to the elemental type, it drops significantly. Okay, fire we have a little bit more, but still I would stick to the material damage source, which is one of those, and since it's the Blood King, I go for the red one. Alright, with Havoc Orb out of the way, we can check out Dust Shroud, which is a tiny damage buff and more or less utility. I like it a lot because I have my movement speed, which is this one. That's my only source of movement speed in my current setup, because I'm fine with that. Removes all ailments is fine. This is nonsense, and this is also nonsense. I'm using this one so I can hit enemies while I'm invisible. We have a longer skill duration, and that's the damage buff. As you can see, we are dealing 14,000 damage with our Havoc Orb. As soon as I use my Dusk Shroud, it goes up to 16, so it's just plus 2k. It's not much, but it's better than nothing. I personally like the Dusk Shroud. If you think that's a useless skill, I don't like it, good, then maybe go for Mark of Impurity. It's also a fine choice. Basically, the only 2 skills which I would recommend is Havoc Orb and Arctic Spear, because these are projectile based, and you will see in the passive notes that this build relies on projectiles. So you are free to change any of the skills if you don't like them. Let's continue with the next skill, which is Blood for Blood. Another skill which is giving us a little bit of more damage and some nice utility features. One of which is the main damage buff. The more health we lose, the bigger is the damage buff, and this creates nice damage spikes. Besides that, we have a little bit of health regeneration, even more additional damage. And the nice thing is that we gain a buff for attack speed and spellcasting speed as long as enemies die within the area of effect. And since we have this little feller here, this effect is cast on us and it will follow us. It's not just a stationary thing on the ground. So that's very, very nice to have. A longer duration, rage cost reduction, and this one is also very nice, so that we have a chance that mobs die instantly if they have 30% of their health remaining or lower. That's why I really like Blood for Blood, and it also fits the blood theme for the Blood King, if you know what I'm saying. Let's move on with the Golem. And the Golem is here for obvious reasons. It's a big source of damage mitigation because of this node. So an amount of damage is transferred to the Golem instead of you. So that's why it's here. And all of the other nodes, they just bump its health to make it as tanky as possible. And this one is here to increase the threat, but I don't know what else to pick. Movement speed is rubbish, so I just picked that. I would love to use the red golem because it again fits the red blood theme, but it has just 1/3 of the health and not really another benefit. So that's why I picked the green one, because it's just the more effective golem. Right, then let's move on with another willpower spender anomaly. And I don't use this as a main damage source. It's more for me, it has the purpose of a crowd control feature, because we can suck in enemies multiple times. If you check that, I can create 2 vortexes at the same time, and each cycle or each light beam going down means enemies get sucked in, so they receive damage, and they are, let's say, concentrated on a single spot, so I can nuke the beep out of them with my Havoc Orb and my Arctic Spear. For instance, you just pull them in with the vortex, and then you, just beat the crap out of them with your other skills. So that's a really nice utility skill. And since we have the possibility to convert it to a material damage type, toxic, it absolutely fits our purpose. If I switch to elemental, I almost lose more than 45% damage. And you can see I use the nodes which make the anomaly more interesting, because we can pull in enemies multiple times. We can have 2 active vortexes. So that's how I use my anomaly. But here's the thing, if you don't like anomaly, you can use something else instead, and it's just a hint for any build, and that's the beauty of it. For instance, we have the tier of Ethereal. We also have a rend option here. That's a nice damage over time. You could use that. Or Thunderstrike and Winter's Grasp. The reason being is of this bottom left node, because that's a damage buff and it's 20%. As well as here, also on the bottom left is also 20% damage increase. I can demonstrate that. I just take those 2 nodes. My Havoc Orb is dealing 14k damage, and when I now use those 2 buffs or skills, you can see I have these circles around them. As long as I have the circles around me, that's just a visualization that the buff is active. You can see it here. I have a buff going on, and my Havoc Orb is dealing 18k instead of 14. So that's a nice thing. You can use those to have a damage buff, but I personally prefer my Dusk Shroud and my Anomaly. Good. So this out of the way, I would say we will have a look at the items, because this is also very interesting, so stay tuned. Let's talk about the items real quick, and I need to say before we do that, all my items share one attribute. They all have plus material damage. It doesn't matter if it's the boots, the pants, the belt, even the rings and the amulet, everything has plus material damage, because this build is based on material damage. I can't stress this enough. Secondly, as far as the armor type is concerned, I would like to have everything as bruiser. I only have 2 gloves, then yeah, the boots are bruiser, but I have lots of other stuff in between, like heavy pants, heavy shoulders, and rogue chest and rogue helmet, I would suggest go for full bruiser because they give you ferocity, which is absolutely essential for more damage. I don't think that the movement speed is really the kicker here. So if you can, go for bruiser, but it's not a must. If you like the heavy stuff because you think you add more block chance and this makes you more tanky, go for it. But I wouldn't recommend it. As far as the gems are concerned, I never can memorize their names. I go for the eternal diamonds for the passive dodge score, because in my opinion, if you can dodge an attack, then there is no damage at all. So in the early days I went for full health gems, but I switched to the diamonds because I really like the passive dodge chance score, and I will replace those as well at any time. But again, it's a personal preference. If you think HP is more important, then go for HP, but I would go for passive dodge chance score. For all the accessories, I use the gem which gives me the transfer time between willpower and rage, and the name is Eternal Amethyst. Yes, that's the one. You use the Eternal Amethyst and then you can get this sweet transfer time. I have it on every accessory and even on my catalyst. I have it 2 times on a catalyst because I was not able to roll a catalyst with 3 times. I think it's support 3, if my memory serves me correctly. So I have this one in between, which is stupid, the plus 120 health regeneration. I don't know, rolling a catalyst is really a pain in the neck, so one day I will do it, but it's just tons of gold you need. I don't know, I rolled for 150,000 gold and I still don't have the catalyst I want, but hey, RNG is a bit. As far as my main weapon is concerned, it is a dagger because I want to use my Dusk Shroud. That's why I have a dagger. You can go for a one-handed sword or an axe. And then instead of Dusk Shroud, you can use any barrier skill of your preference. But I like the dagger, and I have the ruby socketed in my slots, 2 damage added to attack slots and 1 damage added to spell slot. So 2 sockets are in favor of the Havoc Orb and 1 is in favor of the Arctic Spear. You don't have to do that, but that's what I did. You can go for, let's say, 3 times damage added to attacks. And as you can see, my dagger has no damage source coming from anything else but material damage, because that's what we want. So I have physical and rend, absolutely nice. Other thing to mention is the plus 28 material damage on attacks with this weapon. That's absolutely gold if you find that. And nice to have is the life leech from rend damage. It's not a must, but it's a nice little extra survivability. And I have attack speed. To make a long story short, you need to make sure that you have material damage on all of the items. Go for full bruiser if you want, that's my recommendation. And then for the rest of the stats, go for the usual suspects which bolster your damage, like critical chance score, attack speed, or even plus flat % damage as also the possibility. Skill cooldown reduction, I have it on my chest for instance, and on my helmet, that's also very nice. Then the transfer time between willpower and rage, if you have that, is also very beneficial. So everything which gives you a nice damage buff is very welcome, but don't get too bogged down with the items and don't min-max them like crazy, because as you can see, my items, it's just a mess. I have bruiser, rogue, heavy, I don't know what. My white stats are not very good, 11% instead of 15, so it's really a mess and it still works. So you still have the time to mess with your items. As soon as you have more experience with the build, maybe you want to experiment a little bit, so don't get too bogged down with those items. In case you want to utilize some uniques, I only have this James Tall Tale. That's the only good thing I can recommend to you, because it is this helmet which gives us more projectile damage and more damage based on our projectile damage. That's pretty nice. So if you have that, you can use that. It is a significant buff to your damage overall and makes the build even stronger. So that's it for the items. Next up are the passives. ladies and gentlemen, the Gate of Fates. We'll talk about a few choices here. This is not carved in stone. I'm also experimenting a bit, and there are some nodes you should leave out before you reach a certain level. But let's talk about it bit by bit. I'm going through the soldier tree to get the 30% critical chance score. That's an obvious choice. Most of the builds use this major node because it's really nice to buff your chance to land a crit. From the scholar, we're having this node, which gives us more resources, good for our sustainability. And we grab this extra one to have a bigger pickup radius for A, regular globes, and B, the green globes from the Undertaker, which we will grab as well because we get a 30% damage boost for 5 seconds. And this little node makes sure that we pick it up in case it drops somewhere on the screen. That's also a must-have. I would definitely recommend you to get from the Assassin the Merciless Lethality. This node is one of the nodes I would leave out if you are on a lower level, because that's just one node leading to nothing. I would just grab this as a bonus if you can afford picking this up. If you are too low, then make sure you get the other core nodes and grab this up if you are 80 plus. Good. From there, we work our way to the white arrow. These two nodes give us in total minus 10% attack speed, but 30% projectile damage. That's a lot. You need to check if you can pick these up. If you are too low, maybe check if you want to grab the core, the big nodes first before you get those two extra nodes. And for the big nodes, we go with the Hungry Stalactite and with the Acute Tracking. I like these because we gain 1 cold-blooded point every 2 seconds. If we take this node, it's every 1.5 seconds. And what it does is, it's this little feller here. So every 2 seconds we get 1 point, and every point is worth 5% extra damage. In total we have 10 points, which is plus 50% damage as long as we are not getting hit. Because if we get hit, then this will reset and we start from scratch again. But most of the times when I play, I always have some dots here, so I always do extra damage. That's absolutely nice. And if you remember, we have this passive dodge chance score, so we try to not to get hit at all, so then we can sustain this a little bit longer. Fine. So on the right side, we go to the ranger tree, and the ranger tree has lots of stuff based on projectile and these kind of things. I would definitely grab this one for another projectile, and this one for more crit damage. There's also one for your crit chance, but my recommendation would be the crit damage because that's more effective than increasing the chance to land a crit, because you will land crits no matter what. So more damage is fine. This node is also something I would pick up if you have the chance, because +1 pierce strength also comes in handy for this skill here. And of course piercing enemies is nice because you deal more damage to enemies with a single projectile. So grab this if you can. If you are on a lower level, then save this for later. I also experimented with the meditative focus. So if there is no enemy around me within 6 meters, I deal way more damage. Sometimes I'm in the middle of the action, there are tons of mobs around me, so I don't benefit from that. But sometimes when I'm not too lazy and I pay attention, I'll try to keep my distance to get this 25%. This is not a must-have. I experimented with it. You can leave this out if you don't like it, but I have it in for now. What I consider a must pickup is from the Child of Fury, the Furious Appetite and the Frenzied Blows, because this buffs our Rage Spender, our Havoc Orb. If our rage is above 750, then this thing absolutely wrecks. So I would grab this up. In addition, we have the willpower regeneration becomes rage regeneration. So we're building up rage over time and not willpower, because this is our main damage skill here. So this is a must. Here we have the Warlock. I would definitely recommend to pick this up in order to have 200 more maximum willpower and rage. Those two nodes you could leave them out. I grabbed one of those, but if you think we have no problem with the resources, leave this out and grab something else. But if you are starving for resources, then make sure you grab at least one of them or two, because I'm level 84. I will consider picking up another one. I do not know what to do when I'm 90. In the description below there is a link for a 90 build, but that's just theory crafting, because since I am not level 90, I can't tell. But that's an option to consider. A must-have is from the Exorcist tree, Branded Burst and Blessed Silver, because one is more damage and the other one is damage mitigation. So this is 15% damage reduced per tenant points. You can see all your points here. These are the tenant points, so this is your damage mitigation, and that's extra damage from this little node here, the Blessed Silver. Yes, so this includes the Gate of Fates. I will put some links in the description below so that you can check out the Gate of Fates for different levels. Depending on what level you are, you have a way, or you know what to grab first and what to get later on. Fine, so this out of the way, I would suggest we jump into a match and see this build in action. Let's jump into a small level. You can see I have still my stuff. There is no unique whatsoever. And I just open here the maximum level I'm able to open right now. And then off we go. So what you can do, you spend all your rage first, because that's what you have. And as soon as that's done, you can walk and press and hold the button for the Arctic Spear. And in case there is an enemy in front of you, they get hit, and you can cast Anomaly as well. It's super easy because I have this flow of just walking and holding and pressing the button, and as you can see, while I walk along, all these projectiles will be launched because I have this sweet delay, and in case there is a bigger chunk of mobs, you can stand still and use all the other skills. And while they are busy with your golem, you can build up these sweet accurate tracking points and get cold-blooded points in order for you to have more damage. Get more damage. I think my golem is dead in any case. And there are many ways to play this build. You can jump right into it, be lazy, watch Netflix, once in a while move out of some stuff and let the build do the work. Or you can min-maxing it by keeping your distance and benefit from all the bonuses which are out there, to be as effective as possible and as quick as possible. Sometimes I do it when there is a tough fight or when I want to have the personal challenge, but most of the time I just have a lazy playstyle, oops, because I don't pay attention, and then things like that happen. Yes, you're not invincible, so things can kill you, at least in my setup. So there are some enemies which are a pain in the neck. For instance, there's this Aurora Knight, or what is his name, or Pacified Aurora something, and he's really a pain in the neck because he has this little shield around him absorbing all the damage from coming from your projectiles. And I do not know what is with this cultist. He needs a little bit of more love, I guess. There we go. There are really some enemies which are a pain in the neck, but overall I need to say it's just a few mob types which are a little bit tougher or which are more annoying to fight against. Most of the time it's a piece of cake. Same is true for bosses. There are some bosses which are really painful. I don't like this demon because it comes from the ground, grabs you, and sometimes it does just a ridiculous amount of damage and you're dead instantly. But hey, I guess lots of builds do suffer from the same pain in the neck enemies. Overall, I need to say it's pretty easy to play. I mean, I can talk to you, look at the camera, move once in a while, and things just die. And this, even though my build is absolutely not, or my setup is not optimized for the build, as my anomaly is level 81 now, not even level 90. So there is room for improvement. And I told you my gear is just a mess of rogue and heavy and I don't know what, and the stats are also not very good, and I'm not using a single unique. If you use some unique items you have at your disposal which are beneficial, boosting some projectile damage or I don't know what, hey, the build can only benefit from that and get stronger. It doesn't get any weaker from these measures, you know. And that's why I like this build so much, because it gives you various styles how you want to play, and it has lots of potential to get even stronger. See, the Demon of Flesh is, for instance, one guy I really don't like, but it's also not a big problem. Look, now his shield is broken, and you just press and hold one button, and as soon as all your projectiles are released, he's dead. Even my golem is very bored at this point of time. Yeah, fellas, I guess that's it for the video. Of course, I will finish this level, so in case you want to see a boss fight, you can stick with me, or if you're not interested, if you have seen enough and you think, hey, that's worth trying, then much fun and do so. I think it's really, really fun to play. If you guys know my Red Baron build, it was very, very similar, more or less the same. This is just the updated version of it. Yeah, that's it. And I really hope that you and your families are still in full health. You don't suffer about this COVID situation. It's really annoying. We are really fed up with it. But what can we do? At least as a gamer, it's okay-ish, because we need to stay at home. What's better for a gamer to stay at home and play? But I'm sure when we have good weather and the sun is shining, I want to go out and do other stuff. But let's see. We will see. When the pandemic is over, I definitely want to say hello to the Wolcen studio guys, if they let me. This would be very, very nice, because I work in Nice once in a while, so meeting up with them should be really, really lots of fun. Okay, please let me go to the boss. Anyhow, yes, and the build, of course, is not the fastest, so I have no teleport. I only have my Dusk Shroud as a movement, which is okay for me, because if I'm there 1 minute earlier or not, it doesn't really matter. I really don't care. So there is the boss. Where is his health bar? Can you please show me the health bar? Ah, there it is. Yes, it's not an instant boss killer, so you need 30 seconds to kill it actually, but that's absolutely fine. But look, I stay there, press my button, and he just drops. It's not a big deal. Look. Absolutely nice and easy, no trouble whatsoever. Yeah, it's not super fast, but hey. As I told you, there's potential to make it stronger. So go for it. Okay, a golem, there's work to do, go. Lazy bastard, look at him. Okay, that's it. The boss is dead. I do not know how long it took, but hey, that's fine. Now I will close the video. I hope it was okay. In case you have any further questions, please let me know in the comments, and I'll see you on the next one. Have a good time.